Today we are going to look into yoga, a philosophy of Hinduism. So as you see, Hinduism itself we'll talk a little bit about. That's the Indian religion. Yoga itself means union, and it means trying to connect your individual consciousness, called your Atman, basically like your inner voice, your inner self, connect that with the cosmic force, what they call Brahman. Basically, that would be the force of Star Wars. Advaita Vedanta is another one of the schools of Hinduism. We talked about that last with Swami Vivekananda. So Hinduism itself is the oldest known philosophy or religion, about 15% of the world's population. And its teachings go all the way back to 2,000 years before Christ, a book called the Vedas, which means sacred knowledge. That's where yoga and meditation and reincarnation and karma and all the rest come from. They mostly have been misunderstood in America, so today we will let you know what they really are. This is Paramahansa Yogananda. He is the person who's most known for bringing yoga to America. He is a yogi. A yogi is a person who teaches, usually yoga. He taught meditation in Hinduism. He came to America in California in the 1920s. He died in the 50s. There's a documentary on Netflix about him called Awake. He wrote a book called Autobiography of a Yogi, which many people have said is very important. Steve Jobs, the Apple guy, it was the only book he had in his iPad. He read it every year, and he had copies of it handed out to everybody at his funeral. George Harrison, the Beatles, also handed it out to people, and it told sort of the idea of yoga. Here's a quote from Paramahansa Yogananda. You can see him on the left. The guy on the right is a rich benefactor in America who realized the values of his teaching and actually later on became a yogi himself. Here's the quote. Remember that every time you worry, you put on a mental break. And in struggling against that resistance, you place strain on your heart and your mind. You wouldn't try to drive off in your car with the brake on because you know it would severely damage the mechanism. Worry is the brake on the wheels of your efforts. It brings you to a dead stop. Nothing is impossible unless you think it is. In some ways, yoga is more of a science of the mind and truly realizing how we do limit ourselves. So, a couple of vocab terms, just so you can understand what we're talking about. Brahman is the first term. That is the cosmic force. That is the Tao, or the force of Star Wars. It is in everything. You may have heard of the Om or Aum, or that symbol on the right, which is an Ankara that represents the symbol Om or Aum. That's sort of the... Oftentimes people will meditate on that or chant that as a way. That symbol, by the way, at the end of, say, a Christian Mass, when you put your hands together and you say Amen, that's where that comes from indirectly, the Aum, and you put the emphasis on the second symbol. And then you've got Atman. Atman is your permanent inner self. It's your consciousness, not your ego, but it's sort of that witness, that observer. And what they say is... that's the oversoul. So if you remember Transcendentalism, Emerson, I think it's been taught to you as a pizza or a pie or something. The idea that we all have this same awareness. So the point of yoga and meditation is, if you look at this little chart, on the top left, when you are stuck only seeing yourself as the ego self, if you were to do yoga, which goes from the top left to the bottom left, you could then realize, wow, there's Atman, there is awareness, there is consciousness in me. And once you do that on the bottom left, you can then move to the bottom right. In other words, through yoga, you can realize that you actually are connected to everything that is, the cosmic force, so to speak. And so yoga itself. The way we understand it in the Western world in America, we know something called Hatha Yoga, which is a number of different positions, sometimes kids joke pretzel poses, that you put your body in, that exercise and stretches you. And it has definite use, but that's not at all what it is. It's much, much different than how we interpret it. Yoga, as it actually exists, yoga itself means union, remember. It's a metaphysical philosophy, and it's similar to the whole Plato, and later on we're going to get to Rene Descartes, the belief that when you die, part of you continues on. It transcends your body. So if you believe in heaven or whatever, that would be the idea of yoga, that your body is separate, And then, so in other words, when you're on Earth, while you're here, your body is the vehicle for you, which is the soul or the consciousness or whatever you want to call it. And then what the idea of yoga is when you realize that you are not just your body, you can then go beyond that and connect to the rest of life, connect to the rest of the world. And that's the idea of you realize within you is the same creative force that the universe has, because you are part of the universe. Way deep and out there, and don't worry if you don't understand. So yoga is also, because when you're doing it, you're not supposed to be thinking, oh, my butt is going to look so much better now that I'm doing the child's pose. But rather, the idea of yoga is to stop your mind's movement and fluctuations. Our mind is always dancing around. And these specific postures, known as asanas, supposedly help you if you really breathe into these different poses while becoming one with the universe, so to speak. You become much more peaceful. Here's a picture of different Ashtanga yoga poses. These are the pretzel poses. And this is the type of yoga which is like free flowing one position to the next. Vritti is a Sanskrit word which means waves. And they talk about the waves of our mind. And think about how thoughts just randomly show up and then they start bouncing back and forth on the walls of our brain or our mind or whatever you want to call it. These thoughts are the barrier or the obstacle from us being able to concentrate and really be focused. And these thoughts are going to be made up of your memories, your opinions, your desire, all of your ego stuff. And so yoga tries to get you to detach from these thoughts, to put some separation between you and these constant waves. Yoga does not transform the way we see things. It transforms the person who sees. In other words, life's going to do what life's going to do. Some kids don't like when I personalize it, but the idea is we have no real control over that. But through yoga, you begin to sort of transform yourself. One of the ways that this is best achieved is through meditation. So all year long, kids have been asking me about meditation. The point of meditation is to free your mind and make it still. Most of the things going on in your mind are thoughts. Now, thoughts just randomly show up all the time. But the idea of thinking is a verb. We then engage with the thought. The thought shows up, and rather than just let it go, or rather than realizing it's just a thought, we then get stuck on it, like sticky. And we can grasp on, try to cling on to the issue again, and we start thinking, meaning a verb. Meditation tries to get you just to silence your mind, to focus your minds. All those worries go away. And then the idea is, now that your mind shut the hell up for a few minutes, that intuitive voice can actually be heard, that gut feeling, that truth that they say is within you. Most people who don't like meditation, haven't tried it, they just believe this is a bunch of garbage. And who's to say? Each person has to find out for themselves. I myself have found a lot of intuitive voice, if you will, from meditation, which I never would have had with the loudness of the waves of my mind. Here's Ram Dass talking about thoughts and emotions are like waves that come out of a calm body of water. They rise up and then slowly disperse to calm again. Be the body of water, not the wave. So what does that mean? I like this image of like you're just chilling. You're a calm lake. And then something happens outside of you, an external force, somebody did something or didn't do something, and now a big wave shows up. Maybe it's a tsunami. Well, that wave will eventually go back down to calm water. And when you realize that you can't control the wave, as I often say, you want to be the boat that floats, you're going to realize the water's going to calm back down. So don't be the wave, which is the emotion, but be the water that's waiting for the emotion to subside. Emotions aren't bad, but I think over negative emotions for an over long time probably is bad. Here's a quote from Paramahansa Yogananda. If we could but realize the burdens we often place upon the mind, we might wonder that we have not had a breakdown long ago. Taxed with all kinds of worries and anxieties, the mind is soon overwhelmed by the load. The trouble is that instead of living only in the present, we try to live in the past and the future at the same time. These loads are too heavy for the mind to carry, so we must restrict the amount of the load. The past is gone. Why continue to carry it in the mind? So they try to use understanding as just a recognition. Wow, look how I'm making my life more difficult with all of these thoughts and all of these emotions. The burden of that probably is why most people are stuck in the fight or flight of stress. May you always live in interesting times, a Chinese curse. Now, I said this last year, interestingly enough, right before COVID. We're talking like a week before. And kids argued with me that living in interesting times would not be a curse. And I said, from the point of yoga and meditation, when there's too much stuff going on external, outside of ourselves, it's really hard to make our inside, our internal, so calm and still. And they said, yeah, but interesting times is a good thing. I would argue, and I did last year, that right now, as we're living through COVID and elections and all the other upheaval, the dissension in the country, this is a very interesting time to be alive. It's not always a good thing. And so the idea yoga and meditation are ways to make the internal calm in a world of sort of chaos outside. So karma. Karma is generally misunderstood by people in the West. If I ask kids what karma is, they'll say, you know what, I'm going to decide to do something right now. I'm going to help the little old lady because I need some good luck in the future. And it's going to come back. If I do something kind of a boomerang, if I do something good, it's going to come back later on for me. Or it's often used to explain when we have some, usually bad luck. It's because I did that thing. That's why I have bad luck now. It's just odd how we kind of look. Two different ways to comics. The one idea of the boomerang, I do something and it's going to come back and affect me in this lifetime. Or just the idea that karma saying, I saw that, meaning whatever you've done, it's been written down somewhere and it's going to come back. That actually is a little more true than the previous card. Karma, the actually idea behind karma is that our past actions do account for our present situation, but it's more so in regards to future incarnations, future lives. They believe in reincarnation, and so if you've done good or you've done bad in this life, that's going to move you higher up or down the ladder, but it's even deeper than that. What is the goal of our current life, then, if we're just going to be reincarnated over and over and over? They call it samsara, sort of the wheel in terms of over and over and over we're going to be born and we're going to die. They believe in that. So therefore, what's the point of this current life, according to yoga and Hinduism? The point of this current life, they think that it's our job to use the curriculum of life, to learn from all of the obstacles and challenges to come to us, and to gradually become a better person because of these things. They believe that we're basically just actors in an eternal drama, meaning the drama doesn't end, it goes on, and our job is to get rid of karma. Now, everybody thinks, to stop doing bad things, and that's good, get rid of the bad karma. But they think even good karma will keep allowing you to be reborn. In other words, if you're doing things as, I'm doing good work for them, I am good man, I am helper boy, well, then you're doing it from a selfish reason, and self means that you're accumulating good karma, and as long as you do, you will continue to be reincarnated. They believe that life, the sandpaper of life, it tends to affect us, and if we learn the lessons from it, then we'll be better off. When we tend to go through the shitty things in life, part of us does die inside. I mean, that's been said, and what part of us dies is probably the part of us that could not have previously survived whatever situation that is. When we're young, it's rainbows and buttercups and everything's great. And then gradually, the paper cuts of a lifetime, part of us, that innocence goes, but also what remains is stronger. And so there's a mantra that's used, and in the mantra, I was asking, what does this mean? And the actual mantra said, place wisdom upon my chest, place wisdom upon my chest, place wisdom upon my chest, so that when my heart breaks, I might become wise. Meaning the only time we really understand a lot of times is when we've gone through something tough. That's when the empathy can come through if we allow it. And so placing wisdom upon my chest, the idea it can seep in once we're open to listening because our heart has been, unfortunately, sometimes broken by life and our experiences. So reincarnation, we're just going to go through this really quick. They believe you're reborn over and over and over. You'll keep being reborn because you have to get rid of your karma, both good and bad. You need to act in a way that you don't achieve karma. Then you will escape the cycle. Also, as long as you have desire, you will keep coming back. That's the idea. This cycle of reincarnation goes on forever and ever and ever, for eternity, so to speak. Moksha, that's the goal of Hinduism, is to get out of this eternal cycle of samsara. At some point, you would just move beyond it. And how would you move beyond it? You would become enlightened or awakened. And you would do that as by basically stop achieving karma, stop having desires, just act in your dharma, so to speak. And in that way, you'll begin to see truth after a lifetime of being asleep. And it's kind of similar to nirvana, which you've probably heard of, which we'll talk about with Buddhism. So there's different paths to achieve yoga. The first, they all kind of work in different ways to kind of wake people up. The first is jnana yoga, it's knowledge. I actually kind of used a little bit of it in class. The idea of really getting deep, to really understand who am I on a deep level. For some people, it just clicks, and you can, in a very short amount of time, sometimes in less than a week, have some definite, like, eye-opening moments, but it's a steep path, meaning not everybody can kind of have that, like, change in perception. A second type is Raja Yoga. Raja Yoga is 8-limbed yoga. It's a bunch of different types. You kind of see it pictured on the right. It includes things like meditation and yoga and self-observation. It includes something called pranayama, which is a breathing yoga. If you guys ask during class, I will show you some different types of breathing. We did the 4-6-8 breath, 4-7-8 sort of box relaxation breathing, but they have a lot of different types of breathing. Next is Bhakti Yoga. That's devotional, meaning in relation to a God sort of way of opening up to the idea of union. We don't cover that. And finally, Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is what I actually use in my own life. It's trying to end your karma by just being unselfish and righteous in your behavior. In other words, trying to have service to the world around you. And the key thing, without caring about the outcome of your efforts. Because if you're doing good and hoping everybody liked it, well, then you're only doing it for your own self-satisfaction. This is to try to sort of give back to the universe without caring if it is returned, realizing that you're part of the universe. The guy on the left, this is Sadhguru. He's the most popular yogi in the world today in India. He's in front of the statue. It's a 112 feet bust. It's the largest statue of a bust, meaning a head, in the world. Sadhguru has a book, and we're going to have some quotes on him later. He talks about inner engineering in terms of like changing the way you perceive things. Now on to meditation. Everybody has an idea of what meditation is. Ultimately, meditation is going to allow you to separate your awareness from your thoughts. If you can just realize at your core you are calm and the ego mind is generating all the thoughts, you can bring a little more peace. So, meditation creates a new pathway in your brain that makes it judge and discriminate less. Stress can cut years off your life. However, meditation will put an end to a lot of the stress through better understanding. Over time, your mind will learn to disarm its thoughts. The things that worry you will begin to worry you less. Let it happen. The key is to stick with it and not expect too much too soon. That's so important. If I get you guys to meditate and you sit down for 10 minutes and the whole time you're thinking, this is stupid, it won't work, I got stuff to do, well, you're right, it won't work. But if you actually just realize, worst case scenario, you're sitting down for 10 minutes relaxing. Worst case scenario, you can relax for 10 minutes. Best case scenario, maybe there's a lot more to it than we realize. Here's a general chart I put up here if anybody wants to take a picture of it in terms of different benefits that they've shown that meditation causes to the body, in terms of both emotions, in terms of physiological, in terms of our mental faculties. So there's two main types of meditation. The first type is what most of you will probably do, what most people do. It's single-pointed concentration. It's basically you keep your mind busy. You focus on one object so strong with all of your attention, all of your focus, that your thoughts kind of just go away and you almost forget you have a body. The idea is you're distracting your thoughts. It's impossible to stop thinking. If you say, stop thinking, that's going to make you think more. Whatever you resist, persists. And so the idea of this is your brain can probably only stay on a thought for 3 seconds. So let's say you're staring at a candle and you're just staring at it. And then all of a sudden, after about 3 seconds, you realize you're not having any thoughts and you get excited. You're like, hey, this is working. And now, of course, it's not working because now you're thinking again. The key to meditation is just keep your mind busy. And every time it strays away to having to do laundry or the college application or whatever's worrying you, just bring it back to that one thought. Keep your mind busy. So different techniques of single-pointed concentration. The idea of an external object, like staring at something like the candle. Inner visualization, picturing something. I used to picture a blue piece of paper. Some people focus on their breath pattern. That's probably the one most known. Others might focus on a mantra. We'll tell you what that is in a second. And a quote from Yogananda. Practice meditation. You'll find that you are carrying within your heart a portable paradise. And most people just roll their eyes or think that's cheesy, but they probably haven't tried to meditate. Now that I'm meditating, I wouldn't say that it's a portable paradise, but there are days I look forward to meditation, almost like way you looked forward to going into an air-conditioned room on a 110-degree day. It brings a peacefulness that definitely is revitalizing. This is an example of a mandala. It's a deliberately very complicated design, and it's used to silence your mind just by staring at it, to zone out within it. But the idea is you're not going to be sitting there and going, wow, look at that. How long did that take? I wish I had a blue crayon. I would color it. You're not going to add thoughts to it. You're supposed to just stare at it. Here's another example of a mandala that you can kind of zone out to, and maybe your thoughts will stop. Me, myself, I have not had a tremendous amount of luck with mandalas because I tend to begin letting my brain trail off, and now I'm thinking about an ice cream truck or Grand Canyon or whatever. That's not really meditation. The most important thing to do when you're doing any type of these techniques is to not get stuck in any intellectual assessment. What does that mean? Don't start examining or appreciating or understanding or hating or liking whatever you're staring at. If you're staring at something and you start going, that's great, well, you've given it a quality of your mind. Just focus on the object the best you can, and when you kind of lose focus, go back and stare at it a little bit more. I like to use the analogy of soup. Soup is just bland. It is what it is. I'm using the analogy soup is life. Now here's the issue. We then, when we get the soup, we add our own coloring. We add our thoughts, opinions, and everything else. When you are meditating, just stare at what you're staring. Don't add any spices for the soup. Don't add qualities. Just do your best, and every few seconds, you're going to kind of lose track of what you're doing. That's fine. That's natural. Go back and do it some more. It gets better with practice, so before long, you can do a 30-minute session and be very calm, and it feels like you just took a long nap. The syllable Om is sometimes used as a mantra, in other words, just chanting it. I like that cartoon, Some Holy Man, the dude's got it backwards. Get it? Om backwards would be right. So meditations and mantras. A mantra is something you say over and over and over again. Probably the most famous mantra, one that I've used, Om Mani Padme Hum. You would say that over and over and over for hours at times. I've done it for 3 or 4 hours at a time. Now that seems kind of pointless. Why are you saying the same thing over and over and over? Well, by saying Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, even in my own brain, my thoughts stop and I find peace. What it actually means is Jewel of the Lotus Flower. That's a lotus flower on the right. Lotus flower is a type of flower that's very symbolic in Eastern philosophy. It rises up out of the water, but it's not wet. In other words, it's surrounded, kind of like we are, by one thing. In our case, we have lots of issues in terms of the world, but the flower itself remains solid and intact and alive within the chaos that surrounds it. And then the other type of meditation is a type I try to use, and I've tried to do it with some of you guys. It's contemplative meditation. It's just by simply watching your thoughts, you begin to realize they're just thoughts, and you can let them come and go. You don't have to sit there and concentrate really hard to get your mind to let your thoughts become less, because you just let them come and you let them go. Asking the question, am I aware? Just asking that question to yourself, right in the moment that you ask it, makes you aware. Am I aware? And then you're kind of seeing the world. Now you just want to become a very active observer of the present moment right now in all of its stillness, and there's no thoughts. And if a thought shows up, you kind of just dismiss it. It's very, very difficult to do, but I think it's a little more rewarding than just focusing on a candle or saying a mantra for hours, for myself at least. When you become the witness of the way you are acting and thinking, you can see where your mind clings, where your mind wants, where your mind desires, which all leads to suffering. Just the concept of realizing a lot of times how we create our own suffering, contemplative meditation allows that. Try to see your own ego. Just watch it. Don't be in a hurry to drop it. Just watch it. Most kids, when they begin to see how the ego works, they get kind of disgusted. Just the more you watch, the more capable you will become. And then suddenly one day you simply see that it is dropped. It drops just like a dead leaf. When you are mature through understanding, and you have felt totally that the ego is the cause of all of your misery, simply one day you see the dead leaf dropping, meaning your egoic mind is no longer the main thing ruling your thoughts. That's what contemplative meditation is designed to do. So in general, if you want a technique, and you could look this up, but sitting in a comfortable posture, traditionally they say back straight, cross-legged. If you do it on a chair or bed, it might become sleep, which is a different type of meditation, which is fine too. Try to be mindful, try to focus on your object or focus on the stillness of the moment. The most important thing is every time your mind wanders off, just bring it back. Don't judge. You're going to do it over and over and over, but it's a skill you get better at. So I bet the first time you tried to throw a ball, if you ever tried to throw a ball, you probably looked pretty lame at it because you were an infant. And then later on, you ended up becoming the pitcher in the baseball leagues because you practiced. This is something you have to practice. And here are different kind of warnings. You definitely don't want to do these things when you're meditating. You don't want to get stuck in recollection, meaning think of the past. You don't want to be calculating things in the present. You don't want to be imagining into the future. You don't want to analyze and examine. You don't want to construct, basically dream up stuff. We tend to do it. And you don't want to let your mind wander. A lot of kids will ask, in class, when I kind of daydream, is that meditation? Well, that's just your mind wandering. It's fine because sometimes class is boring, but it's not truly meditation. If you want to be sad, no one in the world can make you happy. But if you make up your mind to be happy, no one and nothing on earth can take that happiness from you. I hope you guys got something out of today's presentation, and write journals, and I will see you all soon.